In late December 1986, a San Diego news station aired a segment featuring a ride-along with a police officer giving advice on what to do if your vehicle became stranded on the roadside. The segment was in response to a recent murder of a 20-year-old woman whose body had been discovered near an exit off Interstate 15 in San Diego County.
Now, once you get into a car with somebody, you're at their mercy.
If your car should become disabled, the rule of thumb is stay inside. There are signs you can get to put on the back window to summon for help. If strangers should offer assistance, tell them to call police or the CHP.
Just stay in the vehicle, lock all the doors, turn on the emergency flashers, and wait for help to come. Even if you have to wait all night, it's better to be in the safety of your vehicle and spend the night than to try to walk and get assistance. Now let's step up in front of the patrol car.
Because if you do decide to walk, the CHP says you never know who you may meet along the road.
Anything could happen. Being a female, you could be robbed if you're a male, all the way to where you could be killed. Once you get in that other person's car, you're at their mercy.
On the night of December 27, 1986, San Diego State University student Kara Knott called her parents from her boyfriend's home in Escondido, California, to let them know she was on her way home. The drive typically took about 40 minutes, so she was expected to arrive within the hour. However, as time passed with no sign of Kara, her parents began to worry, fearing that she may have gotten into an accident. They called 4 local police stations to ask if a 1968 Volkswagen Beetle had been involved in any crashes, but none had been reported. At this point, several of Kara's family members began searching along her usual route home, hoping to find any sign of her. Hours later, her sister and brother-in-law came across her car parked near the Mercy Road exit off Interstate 15, with the keys still in the ignition. They rushed to a payphone to call police, who arrived at the scene soon after. It wasn't long before investigators made a grim discovery. Kara's body was found at the bottom of a ravine near her vehicle. Authorities determined she had been strangled to death with a rope. This unexplained murder left residents of San Diego County on edge. In response, KCST-TV, a local news station, filmed a ride-along segment with 36-year-old Craig Pyre, who offered safety tips for stranded motorists. While Pyre spoke on camera, some viewers noticed a visible scratch on his nose. At the time, however, no one realized just how significant that small detail would become. After the news segment aired, dozens of young women contacted police with unsettling reports about the very officer featured in the broadcast, Craig Pyre. Multiple women described being pulled over by Pyre at night and directed to exit the freeway at Mercy Road, where he led them to a secluded area at the bottom of the off-ramp. There, he allegedly detained them for up to 90 minutes, asking bizarre personal questions. Although Pyre had a solid reputation at the time, the sheer volume of complaints couldn't be ignored, prompting homicide investigators to look into him further. As police began their investigation, they discovered that Pyre had been spotted at multiple gas stations near the crime scene around the time of Kara's murder. A gas station clerk recalled that he seemed anxious and disheveled. However, investigators soon found even more damning evidence. A driver stopped by Pyre on the night of Kara's murder told police he was pulled over at 10 p.m., yet Pyre oddly recorded the time as 9:20 p.m. Investigators believed this was an attempt to give himself an alibi, as it was estimated that Kara Knott was killed between 9 and 9:30 p.m. Furthermore, they speculated that the mark on his nose was the result of Kara scratching at his face, a technique her mother told police they had practiced in a self-defense class they had taken together. Beyond this circumstantial evidence, the strangulation marks on Kara's neck matched the exact width of a rope found in Pyre's patrol vehicle. Additionally, a drop of blood on Kara's boots was determined to be AB negative, Pyre's blood type, and one of the rarest in the world. With a mounting case against him, police arrested Craig Pyre on January 15, 1987. Craig Pyre's initial trial for the murder of Kara Knott ended in a mistrial in February 1988, allowing him to remain free on bail. However, in a retrial in August of that year, he was convicted and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, investigators were never able to determine why Pyre chose to kill Kara when he had previously detained numerous other women under similar circumstances, but ultimately let them go. Now in his 70s, Pyre remains behind bars, with his next parole eligibility set for January 2027. In hindsight, Craig Pyre's words in the news segment take on a far more sinister tone.
Anything could happen. Being a female, you could be robbed if you're a male, all the way to where you could be killed.
There is something truly chilling about the fact that Pyre participated in the news segment, offering safety advice in response to a young woman's murder, knowing all along that he was the killer. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of this case, however, is that Pyre was a trusted officer, someone sworn to protect the public, yet he was the very threat people needed protection from. Trevor Heitman was a popular 18-year-old YouTuber from San Diego, known online as McSkillet. He gained a large following by creating content about CS:GO, an immensely popular first-person shooter game. His engaging videos earned him hundreds of thousands of subscribers and attracted many sponsorship deals. Building on his YouTube success, Heitman launched Skin.trade, a website specializing in selling CS:GO skins, which are essentially customizations for in-game weapons. The site quickly became highly profitable, generating around $4 million in just 10 months. With the wealth he amassed from his YouTube channel and website, he was able to purchase a McLaren 650S supercar at just 17 years old, which he showcased to his audience in a video.
So once the turbos kick in, you just have so much power, it's ridiculous. And if you're wondering how I was able to afford this car, well, at the time I bought it, my sources of income were just Skin.trade. I owned that site, and then sponsored CS:GO gambling videos and some other sponsorships of like Game Flip, but it was mainly Skin.trade because that site used to make.
While he took great pride in owning his dream car at such a young age, it would ultimately be the same vehicle in which his life would come to a violent end. Although Trevor Heitman had a large following and was financially well off at a young age, he struggled with many personal issues. While he was never officially diagnosed, those close to him believed he suffered from bipolar disorder, which caused him to experience extreme mood swings, shifting from depression to an abnormally elevated manic state. Just after 8 a.m. on August 23, 2018, Heitman's parents, Kurt and Beta, called San Diego police, requesting that officers come to their home as their son was in the midst of a manic episode. During the call, they reported that Trevor had claimed he was invincible and threatened to drive his McLaren on the wrong side of the road to prove his invincibility.
Hello, 911.
I'm calling to report an emergency. I believe there's an individual who is a danger to himself and a danger to others.
Police soon arrived at the residence, and the subsequent interaction was captured on body cam footage.
Okay, so what do you want us to do?
Take him for a psychological evaluation.
I mean, he's got to meet certain criteria, though.
Well, let's see. He's kicked his mother out of the house. His mother's in the garage. He kicked his sister out of the house.
Take his mother out of the house. She lives here.
Right.
She's leaving on her own. He says,
Well, he threatened her. So, and there was a text that said he would threaten her with physical violence.
Where's that text?
Yeah, she's right over here.
when did he text you?
I have it right here. He told me if I don't get out, he's going to get more violent, and he said, get out and never come back.
Although his parents pleaded with police to take him for a psychological evaluation, officers repeatedly stated that they could not intervene unless he met specific legal criteria, as doing so would violate his civil rights.
He's got manic behavior.
He's never been diagnosed.
He needs to go into a doctor.
Okay, before you start, ma'am, there's a criteria. He has to be gravely disabled. He has to have a credible threat against somebody. He has to have, or harmful to his own self. There's only certain criteria that we can take him under. But let me explain this to you, sir. he can take care of them. Gravely disabled is downtown San Diego, all the homeless laying around, they're not even gravely disabled. We cannot take them in for that. I cannot violate someone's civil rights. And I know it's frustrating. I know you've got a family friend. Okay, you're not even paying attention to me, so I'm gonna just back off.
My psychiatrist told me that.
Okay, so we have to have a reason to just talk to him.
After the exchange with Heitman's parents, police left the residence without ever speaking to him. This would turn out to be a grave mistake. Just hours later, Heitman got into his McLaren and sped off toward Interstate 805. Moments before he left, his mother captured the following video.
You know you're driving in a school zone, right?
Hey, what's wrong? What'd you do here? Hey.
What did he just say? Did he say F off to you?
Something's wrong with him.
Once on the interstate, Heitman did exactly what he said he would do. At over 100 miles per hour, he sped up the off-ramp, heading straight into oncoming traffic. Within moments, he collided head-on with an SUV carrying Eileen Pizarro and her 12-year-old daughter Ariana. The sheer force of the impact killed all three instantly. Just minutes after the crash, police were already on the scene. Photos and videos of the crash site show the full scale of the destruction, with Heitman's McLaren reduced to debris. The tragedy sent shockwaves through San Diego as well as Heitman's fan base. No one could have imagined that he was capable of taking his own life in such a way, let alone killing others in the process. His friends later revealed that around the time of the crash, Heitman, who had dropped out of high school, had been struggling emotionally as his peers moved on to college, leaving him feeling increasingly isolated. While it was unclear if this was what ultimately caused him to snap, psychiatrist Clark Smith, who analyzed the case, believed that Heitman acted with homicidal intent.
Most people who are suicidal just take their own life, but some people are also homicidal. I think he had lethal intention. He didn't know who he was going to kill, but he knew he was going to kill someone.
Following the incident, the family of Eileen and Ariana Pizarro filed a lawsuit against both the Heitman family and the city of San Diego. In response, the Heitmans countersued the city, arguing that the police had failed to intervene when they had the chance. They claimed that if officers had taken their son into custody, as they had requested, the crash would have been prevented. Ultimately, the city reached a settlement with the Pizarro family, agreeing to pay out $6.1 million. Trevor Heitman's disturbing act is a stark reminder of the devastation that can result from unaddressed mental health struggles. Despite achieving financial success at a young age and seemingly having a bright future ahead, he chose to end his life in a horrific manner. What makes this case even more unsettling, however, is that Heitman didn't just take his own life, he also took the lives of two innocent victims in the process. While we will never know what was going through his mind, the destruction he caused will never be forgotten. In June 2012, a video was uploaded to YouTube showing a young man playing Dance Dance Revolution inside a theater arcade in Danbury, Connecticut. At first glance, the video appears unremarkable. Aside from his somewhat awkward movements, the man seems highly skilled at the game. However, what makes the footage truly unsettling isn't his performance, but the identity of the man playing. The man in the video was none other than Adam Lanza, the perpetrator of one of the most horrific crimes in American history. The footage was taken just 6 months before Lanza, then 20 years old, carried out the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre. At around 9 a.m. on December 14, 2012, Lanza fatally shot his mother inside their Newtown, Connecticut home before taking her car and driving to Sandy Hook Elementary, the school he had attended as a child. Upon arrival, he forced his way inside inside by shooting through a glass panel near the locked front entrance. Armed with multiple firearms and hundreds of rounds of ammunition, he began his rampage, immediately killing the school principal and psychologist. Lanza then entered multiple first-grade classrooms, indiscriminately opening fire on the young students inside. By the time he turned the gun on himself, he had taken the lives of 26 people, most of them children. The Sandy Hook shooting was the second deadliest school shooting in American history, surpassed only by the Virginia Tech massacre 5 years earlier. However, what made Sandy Hook particularly horrifying was the young age of the victims. In the aftermath, the police and media intensely examined Adam Lanza's life in an attempt to understand what drove him to commit such an unthinkable act. Investigators soon discovered that Lanza had been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and obsessive-compulsive disorder. More than 1,000 documents spanning back to his childhood were seized from his home, many of which painted a deeply unsettling picture of his mind. Among them was a disturbing cartoon book titled The Big Book of Granny, which depicted a grandmother who killed people with her cane. In an online exchange with an anonymous acquaintance, Lanza wrote, "I incessantly have nothing other than scorn for humanity. I've been desperate to feel anything positive for someone for my entire life." Perhaps most chilling was a meticulously compiled spreadsheet detailing mass shootings, in which he recorded the weapons used in each case. While investigators gathered ample evidence suggesting that Lanza had carefully planned his attack, they were never able to determine a definitive motive behind his actions. In the months following the devastating incident, many sought to learn more about Adam Lanza's background, but oddly, there was little information available. Lanza was an extreme recluse, living in near-total isolation inside his home, where he had black plastic garbage bags taped over his windows to block out sunlight. He spent nearly all of his time playing video games or browsing the internet, rarely interacting with others. He was known to have only one friend, whose identity has never been revealed and who has never spoken publicly about him. Furthermore, very few photos of Lanza exist, and the only known videos of him are brief clips of him playing Dance Dance Revolution at arcades. In hindsight, these videos take on an eerie quality. Watching him dance in what is meant to be a carefree, lighthearted game feels deeply unsettling, given the unspeakable crime he would commit just months later. It serves as a haunting glimpse into a person who, outwardly unremarkable, was silently spiraling toward an unimaginable act of violence. Though little is known about Adam Lanza's life, his name will forever be associated with one of the darkest tragedies in modern history. On January 1st, 2009, a New Year's celebration was in full swing at the Santika Nightclub in Bangkok, Thailand. Around 1,000 people were in attendance, ringing in the new year with music and celebration. Video taken inside the club captured a band called Burn performing on stage that night. Tragically, for many in attendance, it would be the last song they ever heard. Minutes after the video was taken, partygoers saw flames erupting from the ceiling of the club. Within moments, the fire spread rapidly, causing chaos as people frantically searched for a way out. With only one main exit, a stampede ensued, leading to many being trampled in the desperate rush to escape. Some managed to flee by smashing side windows. However, most were trapped inside as the inferno consumed the venue. Thick smoke filled the air, leading many to collapse from inhalation, while the intense heat and flames took the lives of others. Firefighters soon arrived and began pulling attendees from the wreckage, but by the time the blaze was extinguished, 67 people had lost their lives, and hundreds more were left injured. Following the Santika Nightclub fire, an investigation was immediately launched to determine its cause. Authorities soon discovered that the club had been dangerously overcrowded, with 1,000 people packed inside, despite the venue's legal capacity being only 500. Additionally, the nightclub had been illegally registered as a private residence, allowing it to avoid fire safety inspections altogether. Despite these blatant violations, the exact trigger of the fire remained uncertain. One theory suggested that the holiday sparklers handed out to guests may have ignited the highly flammable ceiling material. Another possibility was an electrical malfunction, as the club was known to have significant electrical issues. Regardless of the precise cause, the fire was the result of years of negligence. Investigators found that the club's owners had been cited nearly 50 times for safety violations since 2004, yet they continued to operate illegally. Despite the devastating loss of life, legal repercussions were minimal. In 2011, the club's owner, Wisuk Setsawat, was sentenced to just 3 years in prison, along with a staff member who received the same sentence. However, Setsawat was acquitted by the Court of Appeals in 2013, meaning he never served his full time. The Santika Nightclub fire was yet another grim example of how some are willing to disregard the safety and lives of others in pursuit of profit. In 2016, a video of a foul-mouthed African gray parrot went viral, amusing viewers as it mimicked a string of swear words. While many found the clip lighthearted and even hilarious, the backstory behind the parrot's words was far more unsettling. The parrot in the video is named Bud, and he belonged to a man named Martin Durham, who lived in Sand Lake, Michigan, with his wife, Glenna Durham. Although Martin owned the home, Glenna was responsible for paying the mortgage. However, she had a severe gambling addiction, and unbeknownst to Martin, she had been using the mortgage payments to fuel her habit, accumulating significant debt in the process. In April 2015, Martin received a shocking call from his mother, who had come across a legal notice in a newspaper stating that his home was being foreclosed. Stunned, he confronted Glenna, who brushed it off as a mistake and assured him she would contact the bank. But it wasn't a mistake. The couple's mortgage hadn't been paid in over a year, and their home was set to be auctioned off on May 12th. On that day, rather than facing the consequences of her actions, Glenna made a horrifying decision. Unable to cope with the reality of Martin discovering the full extent of her financial deception, she took the .22 caliber handgun they kept in the house and shot him 5 times before turning the gun on herself. The following day, a concerned neighbor went to check on them, and upon finding their motionless bodies, initially assumed they were both dead. However, when police arrived, they discovered that Glenna was still alive, and she was rushed off to the hospital. After an investigation, Glenna Durham was found guilty of murdering her husband and sentenced to life in prison in August 2017. During the course of the investigation, Bud, the parrot who had lived with Martin and Glenna, was taken in by Martin's ex-wife, Christina Keller. In 2016, Keller recorded and shared a chilling video of Bud, seemingly reenacting the final argument between Martin and Glenna before the fatal shooting. In the full version of the recording, the parrot could be heard switching between a male and female voice, mimicking what sounded like a heated exchange. What many initially saw as a humorous video of a swearing parrot took on a much deeper meaning once it was revealed that Bud was the only living witness to Martin's final moments. Prosecutors even explored the possibility of using Bud's speech as evidence in court, but the idea was ultimately dismissed. The story of Bud the parrot stands as a testament to the intelligence and emotional depth of animals, which many often overlook.